Howdy, y'all. It's your so beloved and glorious Mace Valor. Happy Father's Day, but not for you guys, because obviously by the time you see this, it's not going to be Father's Day anymore. This is my sister, Harmony, or whatever you want to be called. So I wanted to introduce you guys as a living example, because I preach a lot about being successful, owning your own success, and the example that I give for me is stop doing the 9-to-5 and done the whole gig economy thing. And my sister is a prime example of someone that just was sick and tired of the hustle and bustle of the 9-to-5 life and the stresses that came from that, and migrated off into owning her own success. So go ahead, Harm, take it away. What is your story on how you've kind of gotten to the point where you're at now?
All right, so I'm a single mom of a 5-year-old little boy, and I do it all on my own. So working a 9-to-5 job while trying to afford, daycare and groceries, the gas to go to work. And most of the time I worked, commuting an hour every day. I live in about an hour south of Seattle, and I was working in Bellevue. So driving an hour one way each way, daycare, gas, food, lodging, it was so much. And my brother had kind of gotten on TaskRabbit, and he came up to visit one time, and I've tried every shift known to man. We've all done it. We've worked the warehouse jobs. We've worked office jobs thinking, Monday through Friday is great. 9-to-5 is great. Finally reaching that peak, like, what else is there for me to do besides just work? And, and make a little bit amount of money and never feel appreciated, never feel like I'm actually doing something good, any good. It's just go to work. And Zach told me about TaskRabbit, and when I joined, I absolutely loved it. I loved being able to not have to worry about going to work every single day, make my own schedule, work around my son's school and everything that comes up when it comes to life. And, I personally didn't like it as much because I felt kind of controlled. I felt like, I didn't have as much free reign. I started doing TaskRabbit, and I felt kind of restrained. I felt like, I couldn't get along with my clients as well. I mean, I did a good job. I loved it, but I never really knew what I was getting into, and I didn't like that. A lot of the time, I just felt like, I would rather me working if I did this myself, and I kept saying it to myself. If I did this myself, if I did it myself, I could do this, that. Well, finally, I went to my mom, who's been a business owner for so long, and I just kind of I knew she was somebody I could talk to. And the biggest thing is finding somebody who you want to be a mentor for, or who you want to mentor you. And I told my mom, I can't do this 9-to-5 anymore. It's killing me. I can never see my son. I'm not making enough money. I'm not going anywhere. And the minimum wage is just going down, no matter how much time I put into it. So I finally decided, let's do TaskRabbit. I finally just jumped, and I quit my 9-to-5 job, and I went full-time in TaskRabbit. And I did that for about 3 months, and I decided to go to my mom and ask her, let's start an actual business, because I can kind of specialize my skills, and I found out what I'm good at. And that's thanks to TaskRabbit, is I kind of had a broad range of what am I actually willing to do. Because you've gone to jobs where you think you can handle it, and you just can't. And so I finally decided, this isn't for me. I just want to be able to do it on my own. And I felt more comfortable being away from the 9-to-5 job and doing the TaskRabbit and setting up my appointments and everything. Kind of gave me that feeling. But I wanted more. And so I just kind of used it as a platform in a sense. And now I've started my own handy business with my mom and flipping houses and remodeling houses. And kind of, it gave me that little bit of a push to go from a 9-to-5 to be completely self-employed and a vice president of my own company at 24 years old. Being able to spend time with my son, being able to actually afford to live and not be constantly driving an hour to work, sitting in traffic every single day. I can actually decide, I want to take a Wednesday off. It's going to be beautiful. I can do that. I can still make my own schedule. And I really couldn't have done that without going on TaskRabbit first and then coming and learning, So sometimes it's just not for some people. It just wasn't for me.
But here's the great thing, though. So you touch on a lot of stuff in a short amount of time. So yeah. I think the thing what you were trying to say is utilizing his lead generation. Because much like myself, finding that good client, the one that you trust, the one that you know that isn't going to rip you off for the work that you do, that understands the value of good craftsmanship.
Yes.
Getting that person off the platform and then utilizing your services that way, I think, is very beneficial. It's something that a lot of people do with TaskRabbit. Now that does come with its own challenges and stuff. You have to have your own insurance and stuff like that to be able to cover for any kind of accident. It doesn't matter if you're the best handyman in the world. Something can happen and a client can make a complaint, and the next thing you know, you're screwed. So you got to cover yourself.
Yeah. A classic mistake I made while I was on TaskRabbit, which is something that I've been able to do when I'm off the books, when I'm doing it myself, is, breaking something. I went to a job, and this was when I first started. It was a lawn garden, doing weeds and stuff like that. And she had me come inside to put up a couple shelves. Well, she didn't clean anything, and she was kind of hoarding everything, and something broke. Something ended up falling off the wall, down the wall, and it broke. And it was something more like an antique. So I was on TaskRabbit, but I was under lawn and garden. So when she reported it, it was just this big hullabaloo. And it's like, I want to be able to work with my clients and have that. And luckily it was during a TaskRabbit task that I had the insurance that they have to go ahead and help her. But if I didn't, if I was on my own, that'd be out of my pocket. That'd be horrible. So anytime you want to go on your own, you have to be licensed, insured, and bonded somehow. You go through your state you go through the state and you find out what you need to do depending on if you need to register with your taxes, your L&I, any kind of a county things. So
a very good resource to have when you're first starting out on your own and you have a lot of questions. Your local chamber of commerce, they usually have a lot of info. Even on websites online, they can help point you in the right direction for what legislation you need to follow when you're starting your own business in your own area. So, like for me, I love TaskRabbit. I'm probably going to love it for the next year. I just gave my whole year-end review, link down below, or the I, wherever it decides to be today. But yeah, so for me personally, I like what I'm doing. It's nice and steady. It kind of keeps me in a nice comfort zone. So obviously, I've obviously been working on the book. Even if you've been watching my streams, I've been flipping magic cards and Pokemon cards, finding other ways of earning revenue. That's kind of how I'm doing this whole own my own success thing.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day, right?
So what's that? And the lead generation is the big thing that Zach said. Being able to get those good clients who understand a good that you. God, I can't even talk right now. You'll edit it. No, being able to know, to have clients that know your worth, and to be honest, my biggest thing was with TaskRabbit, there's some of those people that do the really cheap work just to get the work done and then put a bad name out for everybody. I don't like that. So the biggest thing is know your worth plus tax.
So this is something interesting I've done in the past. I learned this from Louis Rossman, who I will preach this man. He's my, he's a guru when it comes to owning your own business and stuff. He does a lot of board repair and stuff for a lot of Apple products. He has this thing to where occasionally he'll have a customer come in and he'll work on the board and he'll not give them a price. He'll say, all right, now that your stuff's complete, how much do you think it's worth? I'll just make you pay whatever you think it's worth. They'll drop him a $20 bill for something that costs him $300 normally as an invoice. So, and it kind of makes you gauge kind of what customers you're going to keep and what customers you're not. So I've actually done this before where I've gone to someone's house, I've worked for an hour or two, people that I've met off platform that have been referred to me and stuff. And they're like, hey, how much do I owe you? And I'm like, you know what? How much do you think it's worth? That's what I'll bill you. And I've done this 3 times. One time I had someone hand me a $20 bill and I was there for 2 hours. And I was like, you know what? That was my little thought experiment. It's fine. It's all good. It was easy shit. The other 2 times I was there for about around the same time. I have 2 hours at the other 2 places. One person handed me $60, which is around my going rate, and for that amount of time. And the other person handed me $150. And you can kind of see that certain people understand the value of what we do, like doing either handiwork or construction or even doing remodeling type deals. The scale is always changing, but the client's mindset is very much so their own. That's kind of like when I did the whole food delivery thing. I didn't like the fact that what do we point?
I gotta get the steak done.
Go do your steak. One thing I didn't like. Have you ever done any of that Postmates or DoorDash or anything?
I did Uber for a year.
Oh, go start your steaks and then we'll talk about that.
Don't do that.
Yeah, so that's a big thing for me is the fact that I couldn't stand the fact that you're kind of solely reliant on tips to earn any kind of profit from what you're doing. And that with that experiment that Louis Rossman had done that I had tried to do myself, I noticed that it's very arbitrary. Every customer's kind of different, so you really have to kind of know your own worth and price yourself accordingly. And you always want to let people know ahead of time, obviously. But like what my sister was just saying, like DoorDash, Lyft.
He's watching Minecraft.
Nate, get out.
You're watching Minecraft? What are you doing, bud?
I'm not watching.
No. What are you up to, bud? What are you doing? You wanna come say hi?
I'm watching The Flash, but he thinks I'm watching YouTube.
Oh, that's cool. Come say hi.
And French fries. No chips.
Those are my chips.
You don't want to say hi?
I know.
No?
Hi.
Nate's totally comfortable. Say what's up, bud.
That's ugly.
Yeah, that's really weird.
Come here, bud.
I forgot.
Come here.
Baked potatoes. Does anybody want baked potatoes?
Do you have them?
Yeah, let's do it up.
I have one.
Do that.
I'll share happy with sharing.
Whoa.
Thanks.
Oh, hey, Michael, can you leave paper towels? Thanks, bud.
Yeah, Zach, do you have a timer on your phone you can set for me?
I don't have my phone on me.
I got it.
I have a watch, though. All right, swap. Okay. I'm so glad you mentioned that. I totally forgot about the whole Uber thing. Oh my God, I can't even imagine. So here's the thing. The reason why I never started doing Uber or Lyft or anything like that was because you've seen. Thank you, bud. You're the best. You've seen the cars I drive. You know, I'm the kind of guy. It's like I buy my car outright. I don't want to. You know, I just pay my registration every year and that's it. Done. Right. I can't imagine trying to do those jobs while paying whatever you got to pay on your car.
No. So to give you an idea, I got married and had bought a 2017 at the time, brand new, straight off the lot that year's 2016. I purchased a 2017 or 2016 Mazda 6.
It was a nice house.
It was like a $40,000 car. It was black on black with white and black interior. I had a subwoofer. It was leather. It was the bee's knees. I was almost considered a luxury car. And so I would have made a lot of money had I had a couple of upgrades done on it, which I should have done. But the whole thing was, I drove my car and I put like 25, 30, 40,000 miles in 1 year. 1 year. So when I went to go get rid of my car, you know, I had a bit of a thing, but when it sold for value going, I bought it at 38 a year or two later, not even 2 years later, and like 50,000, 60,000 miles on it for like $17,000. So the depreciation happens so quickly. My ex had driven a car, and his car, which was the same in 2015, Mazda 6, and he ended up totaling it while he was on a night he was doing Uber, not during an actual ride though. And because of the mileage on the car was only 2 years old, but because of the mileage, they totaled it.
So what about trying to make money on that particular platform? Is it like kind of like solely reliant on just tips? Like that's where you get your real bread and butter?
Really, it became, you know, we would go with other groups of Uber drivers, try to go to the concerts, and I mean, it was really about kind of, excuse my French, but fucking over the client by not putting on the app until tons of people are in the area, getting out of the concert, no cars go on. We would basically, all the Uber drivers would just agree not to turn on and then skyrocket the price, and then everybody's getting a ride that's going 2 or 3 miles and it's $100. So to do that, I felt kind of crappy, and I didn't want to do that. So then I would go, and really I was reliant on drunks in my car. I mean, sometimes I would only make money if somebody puked, because then it's immediately $250, you know, bodily fluids. So you really ruin your vehicles. You don't make any money, and then they don't take the taxes out. So everybody forgets you still have to file your taxes, and you have to end up paying if you don't work it all that year. And when they give you all that money, you just blow it. Oh, I made $1,000. People spend that money. They don't remember that you need to put away 25% for your taxes. You know, and they put away not enough, and then they have to pay, and it's not worth it. You put too much miles on your vehicle, and there's so many things that can go wrong, you know, and then slowly it became more percentages go to the company. Clients didn't know how to tip, you know, and you just get shitty people. So
2 things real quick. One.
Did you see Mike on the side, Rennie from here?
Who happened?
Mike.
What about
from here.
No, I haven't seen him.
Here, Dan, run out here, bud.
Yeah, so a couple things. Oh, wow. So you talk about taxes. So with TaskRabbit, I paid nothing in taxes this past year. I made $13,000, put me in a lower income threshold as far as my self-employment was considered. And with all of my write-offs, you got to remember that. You want to keep track of all your mileage. You want to keep every receipt for everything you expense. Even if the client pays for the expenses that you make, you hold on to those receipts because they're still business expenses.
And a big thing with that is, going into my own company, I've learned about resale and wholesale permits and being able to purchase things that are going directly to the client. This doesn't include your tools, being able to really understand that, put in those new light fixtures. I'm paying the tax on that, so as a client, but, it's just a whole, you have to keep track of these things. This is when you can get serious. If you really decide to do this, regardless if it's TaskRabbit, Uber, or your own business, anytime the government can come after you for your taxes, and you have to have everything in order. It's called an audit, and it does happen. So you have to keep track of everything. People think, you can just go and make money willy-nilly. But Zach's understanding, he has to think about the taxes. You have to think about that kind of thing.
And there was another one. So I'm trying to remember this story correctly. If we can just finish off with this. Wasn't there like a weird Uber situation where there was like they wanted you to be a getaway driver or some shady?
Yes. I was a drop vehicle. I picked up a guy from a bowling alley, and I'm a single woman. I wasn't at the time. I was married. I have a 5-year-old, and I was going, my son was at the time maybe 3. I went down to this kind of sketchy part of town, usually a bowling alley I've been to before, it's /bar, that kind of place. And this guy got in my car, and he was real tall, about 6 foot something, and he got in the back seat. First thing, it's like, okay, normally, if somebody that tall, I offer them to sit in the front seat just because of the leg room. He sat directly behind me. He then had the drop off for about 25, 30 miles north, and I just had a bad feeling. So I started talking about my kid, and I started talking about my family, and I kind of just went into that. And when I came up to my destination, I asked him, okay, well, I'm coming up on it. Do you know where it is? And he's like, well, no, just keep going. Just keep going. Just keep going. And I got into this more northern part of the town, a couple towns over, and he just said, just drop me off here in the corner. And I said, all right. So I dropped him off, and I went and I got another client. And as soon as I got out of the vehicle, I just check everything. I make sure the seats are wiped down in case there was like crumbs or anything. I look in the back seat, and there's a gun. He left his gun. So first thing I did, I closed my doors, locked the doors, took my keys, called the cops. They picked it up and said most likely this was an unregistered gun that was loaded. And he just used me as a drop. And most likely, I reported everything. Most likely it was done on somebody else's credit card. Somebody ordered him an Uber to leave the bar, most likely. And I was just a drop vehicle. So.
That's scary. That's
the thing. And it being, it does happen. It does happen. So you have to be careful. And another thing, whenever you work for any companies like this, you work for yourself, being able to have a record of everything. So if you do decide to go off platform ever, the biggest thing for anybody is, to actually make sure that you write down addresses you're going, phone numbers to contact them, what the time frame is that you're going to be gone. Because if you don't do any of that and you end up going missing, nobody's going to have a record of it, especially if you take a client off platform. Make sure you still have a book, basically, where you write everything down, whether it be receipts or anything, to where somebody knows where you are. It can happen to anybody, and these kind of stories happen all the time, all the time. This was just one. And so
one of many for a lot of many people. Mm-hmm. So anyway, it's getting ready about be that time to get some grub going. We all fat asses here. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for being on the video.
Thanks, guys.
If you guys like me doing this, talking with other people that have utilized the platform or people that are doing whatever they can to own their own success, please let me know in the comments down below. As always, I've been your oh so glorious and beloved Mace Valor. This is my sister.
Harmony. Bye.
Signing off. There we go.